Hi, everybody. My name is Dave Malter. I'm the director of the Camp Administration and Leadership Program here at Gratz College. Happy to be here with you today. And what I'm going to talk to you today about is commitment from your staff. So, those of you who are in the camp world, it's now May 23rd, and we are getting really close to staff training and the beginning of summer. So, just wanted to share some knowledge about getting commitment from your staff, how to get it, how to keep it. As anybody who works with young people knows, it's a difficult time to not only hire staff, but to get them to commit to your entire season. So we're going to talk about that today, and hopefully you'll walk away with some more confidence and ideas and practical takeaways to make your staff training and your summer successful in terms of keeping staff at your camp. So we're going to start by talking about something that I think is really important. And it starts with the perspective of the camp director or leadership at camp. And really this is applicable to anybody who's working with young people. And that's the idea of radical acceptance. And I'm sure you might recognize this gentleman. He's a famous actor. And he right now has a documentary on Netflix where he talks to his therapist, whose name is Stutz, Dr. Stutz. And he discusses this idea of radical acceptance, about accepting the things that are outside of our control and just going with it and trying to figure out a way to work within those constraints. I think that's what we have to think about in terms of our staff. We have to understand that it's a different generation, it's a new way of thinking, and we as camp directors, whether we're veterans or new to the profession, have to really figure out a way to come to the table and to meet them where they are. So as I talk about commitment from staff, I also want to talk about commitment from leadership and make sure that we're doing everything we can to make them feel comfortable and wanted and supported at camp. So I'm going to show you just a short video where he talks about this idea of radical acceptance, and hopefully it'll help you kind of understand a little bit more about what that means.
That reminds me of radical acceptance, which is a big one and really helps me work through a lot.
That's right. That's exactly right. Here's the thing. Every event has something in it that you can learn from. When something goes wrong, anybody can say, well, it's not that bad of a thing. I'll recover from it tomorrow. That's not good enough. You have to create a reflex to squeeze the juice out. Squeezing the juice means finding something meaningful. It's trying to find a state of not getting into a lot of negativity, but actually training yourself to say, what am I going to do about it now? Because the whole premise of this is we're not going to win every time. We certainly can't be perfect. We can't control it, but we have an unstoppable will to go forward. And so squeezing the juice out of the lemon means you have not only the will to do this, but you have some faith in it, that there's something there that's valuable. And what happens is everything starts to become more meaningful. And you don't get to the world of meaning through big things. You get it through small things. You need to look at all events as having value. If you can do that, then you're in a zone of tremendous opportunity.
So he's talking about moving forward and small things and not getting trapped in the past of the things we've always done and the way we've always looked at things. And to me, that's a really important part of developing staff training, developing staff, working with young people, is we have to realize that we have a certain perspective and it's worthwhile to rethink our perspective and to move forward and to adjust and adapt. So typically, if I was doing this training, it would start with understanding commitment during the recruiting and hiring phase. But since it's May 23rd, we're probably past that. Hopefully you're fully staffed. I hope you are. You're really close. So we're going to really focus on training, staff orientation, and then camp and a little bit of post-camp as well. So those are really the areas that we're going to focus on today. So everyone's hired, hopefully, again. And everybody's going to show up to staff training or orientation at your camp. Everybody that you've engaged with, everybody that you've talked to, they're there. They showed up on the day they're supposed to show up, excited and ready to go. So that's the premise that we're going with. That's where we're going to start. I want to introduce you to somebody. His name is Justin Pritikin. He is a younger camp director who just started working at a day camp in Boston. And he's really smart. He really has a lot to say about working with his generation of camp staff. So people in their late teens, early 20s, who a lot of us are hiring. And I had the opportunity to interview him about this session a few months ago while we were at a conference together in Orlando. And I just want to show you a little bit about what he has to say as we start with staff training.
Let's talk about when they get to camp for training. What's one piece of advice you would give us when they get there for staff training or orientation?
I don't want to sound dramatic here, but if you, on that first day of staff training, are taking your staff on a 45-minute walking tour, pointing out 250 random things, fun facts, locations of where activities are there, you are unwell, and I guarantee you staff are going to quit and be overwhelmed by that. Because here's the thing, I am living at the camp that I now work at for the last 2 weeks, and I don't even know where things are yet, right? This is something that comes gradually, and to fire hose staff with that very quickly makes people feel uncomfortable, especially if they've never been at camp before. If this is the first time they're at a camp ever, and you show them a ton of things that they don't really get and don't feel comfortable with, you lost them.
So what should you do instead?
Throw a party. Simply put, camp is so fun. That is what separates us from that boring office internship or that line cook job at McDonald's, right? Make it fun, make it special. The purpose of rookie training, in my eyes, is that when you leave rookie training, you leave with a friend or two friends, or you've exchanged numbers with someone so that if you even think about quitting, you're not just quitting on that camp now, you're quitting on that person you connected with during that 4-hour stint. I'd much rather have them leave with someone they feel comfortable with to sit next to at the next training than to know where the hell the upper camp boys bathroom is by tennis. That's simple.
So obviously Justin gets very excited. He's pretty vocal. He likes to explain things in his way, but he makes a great point that we want to make people feel comfortable and make them feel like they're at camp for the right reason. And they're at camp to have a job that's meaningful and fun and interesting. So I completely agree with him that we should focus on making staff training and orientation feel like camp. That's what it should feel like. We should throw a party, we should have fun, give them opportunities to connect with each other, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. But that's the whole point of all this. Obviously, there are important subjects that we have to cover. We have to take care of kids, we have to take care of our staff, but ultimately we want them to feel like this is a place that they want to be at, they want to stay at, and we're doing what we promised during the interview process. We're saying this is a place where we play, we have fun, you get to meet new people, you get to hang out with young people, you get to take care of other people's kids, and here is what it looks like and feels like. Really important piece to this. When you are interviewing people, if we go back a little bit, hopefully you've taken some notes and you've said, okay, this is who this person is, this is what I'm hiring them for, and these are some things that they're really interested in, things that they like to do, sports teams that they like, activities that they like, whatever it might be. And when they get to camp, you're making that personal connection. So you break out your little spreadsheet, you hide it behind another piece of paper, and you say, hey, Dave, how are you? I remember that you love the Yankees, and they're doing really well this season. That's great. It's so good to see you. Welcome. Or how about the Knicks? They're finally in the playoffs, and they're finally doing well. Have you been watching? Who's your favorite player? Whatever it might be. Showing them that you care and that you've listened and that you're invested in them as much as you are the campers. It's a really important piece of this. The other piece of this is that you just want people to be happy to be there. And it's really important that you get to that essence of camp, that it's not just a job, that it's a place that people really are obsessed with and they absolutely 100% want to be part of, and they're happy, so other people around them will be happy. Think about when gossip starts or somebody's not satisfied or not enjoying where they are, that spreads like poison ivy, right? It's really dangerous. And we want to make sure that everybody is happy and adjusting well, because if one person is happy, it's going to spread from person to person to person. So a big goal of your staff training really has to be about building these connections and building these communities amongst staff. You want to give them the space to get to know each other, to find common ground, to understand who the other people are that are around them, and not just sit them in a theater or on a bench for 45 minutes at a time and give them lots of information, which Justin in his video called fire hosing, right? We really want them to have the opportunity to get to know each other on a really personal level as they're learning these things and learning the important pieces of camp. But the idea is that when they're done, when you're done with staff training, that they're really connected. It's really the magic of camp is the magic of human connection. It's how people get along, it's how they support each other, it's how they feel safe and comfortable is by finding these opportunities to build relationships. And as a camp director or leadership member, our job is really to make these what are seemingly unintentional opportunities. So you want to be intentional about making them seem like it just happens, but you've put a lot of planning into it. You found opportunities throughout your staff training to really give people the flexibility to talk to each other in an informal setting without, just learning that it's happening, what seems like an accident, but you really planned it out. Here are some best practices when it comes to staff training. I think we should all think about and some of the ideas that other camp directors I've spoken to about and some that I've used in the past. So explaining again that if staff feel good, they're going to do good. And finding moments throughout staff training to just make them feel good about where they are and who they're with and what they're about to do at camp. And if they feel good, if they're healthy, if they're excited about the environment that they're in and the people that they're working with, they're going to do a good job. They're going to be enthusiastic. They're going to want to go above and beyond. It can't just be an expectation. You have to set them up for that kind of success. So finding ways for them to be really excited about this opportunity and really feeling positive about what they're doing and who they're doing it with will go a really long way. You also want people to feel like they're part of your team and be part of your story. You want to encourage them to talk about it, to share their successes, to really get enveloped in everything that's going on and get involved and sing the songs and contribute during campfires or whatever it is you're doing at staff training. Really get them enthusiastic about it and make them really want to be part of your team. I like to think of this as think about your best coach that you've ever had or the show Ted Lasso. And can you be like that coach? What is it about those personalities and those situations that make people want to do anything they can for the good of the team, to put their individual needs a little bit to the back and move everything for the team up to the front? So when you're thinking about the best coach or the best mentor or the best teacher that you've ever had, or somebody like Ted Lasso on TV, what is it about them that they get people to rally around and they want to do their best? Because if they do their best, it'll help everybody around them. Again, as you're going through this, find opportunities to get your staff to understand that if they stick together, they're going to do much better. If they get each other's back, if they support each other, if they look out for each other, if they care about each other, they're going to want to stay. Something that Justin said earlier about once you're in and you're committed and the people around you look to you as a friend, somebody that they can trust, you're not going to want to leave. You're going to want to stay with them because you've made an obligation to be there for them. So really think about how do you develop those relationships? How do you encourage those relationships to grow during staff training? Another piece that we really want to talk about is that we don't want people just fitting in. We don't want people to be who you think you need to be in order for people to accept you. Camp should be a place where everybody belongs and it's encouraged to be your authentic self. And no matter what happens, that you are you and people will accept you for that. And that has to be part of your culture, your mission, part of the way you talk, part of the language of camp, that we accept everybody. And you've been hired for a specific reason because we loved your personality. We loved your skills. We loved who you are. And we want you to be who you are. And everybody around you is going to respect that because we don't all have to be the same. We don't need to fit a mold. We just need to be who we are. And then we get a sense of belonging versus fitting in. Super important. And then we get to camp. It's on like Donkey Kong, for those who get that reference, hopefully. But we are at camp. And we want to make sure that all of our staff make it through camp. It's super important. And how can we ensure that that's going to happen? First, you have to be careful of the skunks. And what are the skunks? They're those people that are negative, and they spread, they spray their negativity. And keep an eye out, keep an ear out, make sure you're paying attention to who those people are that aren't buying in, that aren't part of the team, that are spreading negativity, and address it immediately. None of us ever want to fire anybody. It affects people in lots of different ways, right? From top to bottom of camp. But at times, if there are people who you just aren't going to get on board, who are just spreading that negativity, we have to say goodbye. And it's up to us to really control our environment, control the messages that are going out, and making sure that everybody is on the same page and nobody is disrupting that. So be careful of those skunks. So there's a restaurant called Shake Shack, which some of you might be familiar with, and the founder of that is Danny Meyer. And he talks about this idea of gentle, constant pressure. And if we were in person, I demonstrate this in person. But he talks about a salt shaker. And at his restaurants, especially the sit-down restaurants, maybe not so much Shake Shack, but his more upscale restaurants, the idea is that the table is set in a very certain way. And the salt shaker should be in the middle of the table. And if it's not, every employee should know that that salt shaker should be in the middle of the table, not slightly askew as it is in this picture. But instead of walking around your restaurant and yelling at people to go put the salt shaker back, it's in the middle, you know better. The idea is that you're gentle, but you're constantly reinforcing that. And you would say, hey, Dave, don't forget that salt shaker belongs in the middle of the table. And if it happens again, you know what, Dave, I thought we talked about this. Again, don't forget, the salt shaker should be in the middle of the table. It's the way that we do things here. And eventually that gentle, constant pressure becomes a habit, and people understand that. So while you're at camp, young people, and really any staff member, no matter their age, isn't going to respond to this aggressive, yelling or really passive aggressive attitude. They're going to respond to this gentle, constant pressure. Just a reminder, this is how we do it here. This is, how we'd like to see things done. Do you want to talk about it? And eventually they'll get to a point, some faster than others, where they understand that, and you no longer have to do that. But you have to make sure it's gentle, constant, and it's not overwhelming and in their face. There's also an idea that if you do that, it makes them look bad. And nobody wants to look bad. We all have egos, and we all want to be seen in a certain light. So by confronting people in a negative way in front of everybody else when they're a staff member, makes them feel really like an outsider. It makes them feel bad. And you don't want that to happen. It's much more likely they'll leave if you do that versus this gentle, constant pressure. And I suggest you read the book. It's actually really interesting and is helpful in lots of different areas. If you think about some of the largest companies in this country, so some of the Fortune 100 companies in this country, they're spending a tremendous amount of money on their employee experiences. And we can do the same. We don't have to spend as much money. We're seasonal, we're smaller, but I think there's a real opportunity to hire a staff experience officer, and it's not too late. You can hire somebody who is responsible for making sure the staff are happy, make sure that things are going well, somebody that staff can talk to, and also to do some special things for staff to make them feel better. And you give them the power to make change. Some of that is financial power. Some of that is just decision-making power. Obviously, it's not carte blanche. It has to work within the system that you have at camp and your budget, but really hiring somebody that has the temperature of the staff and what's going on and can respond and has the ability to help them. It's a really important role that lots of camps are starting to hire for, and it's one that I highly recommend that you do. And I believe there's still time to find somebody who can do that at your camp. A lot of times it's a former camper, former staff member who can come back. It's a really important piece. So at camp, here's some other best practices that I want to share with you. Lots of in-staff summer staff events, whether you're a resident camp or a day camp. Doing some special things, bringing in special events for them, finding opportunities to make the experience different and fun and exciting for them, bringing in food trucks or bringing in a special entertainer, or if you're a day camp, having a barbecue, and get your leadership team staff to help you. So if you get an ice cream truck, have the leadership team hand out the ice cream. right? If you're doing a karaoke night or whatever it might be, have the leadership team get involved. They want to see these people in charge are part of it as well. And staff will really understand by doing this that you're super committed to them. And it's something that you take very seriously. And again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again, that staff are just as important as the campers. And their success is really important to you. Their happiness, their willingness to stick it out is all something that you're invested in and that you want to help them with. Also remember something to think about that a lot of people don't, that perception is the key in everything. Your staff are always analyzing your actions. Your attitude and how you present yourself around camp will have a direct effect on how they think about what's going on. So if you're walking around camp and you're in a bad mood and it shows on your face, they're going to have the same reaction. They're going to think something's wrong. They're going to be nervous. They're going to be more stressed. So no matter what's going on in the office, leave it in the office. Whatever phone call you just had with a parent or with a vendor who the food's maybe not showing up exactly when you thought it was going to come, whatever the situation is, leave that inside. And when you go out to camp, be positive, have a big smile on your face, play, engage, ask a lot of questions, be part of the team because they're always watching. And we don't want them to be more stressed or more nervous about what's going on around them. So I'm going to give you one more video from Justin where he does talk about some of this during camp and what we can do.
Let's just end with during camp, right? During the summer, you need those staff to stay throughout the length of the summer, whether you're day camp, resident camp, there's a commitment there. How do you get them to stay throughout the whole summer?
You have to meet people where they're at. I think a lot of camps for a long time walked a line that was, you are here for our 8 weeks, we have off on the 4th of July if it's a day camp. Other than that, you are here and you cannot miss a day, right? Let alone, God forbid, a week, you can't work here, right? The amount of emotional and physical labor that these 16 to however old staff members pour into your camp for money to pour into your pockets that you spend on a Whibbit piece or for whatever, right? You have to meet them where they're at. Come up with a success plan. Talk to them. If they want time off or requesting something, have a dialogue. Don't just grant it to them. Don't let them walk all over you, but listen to them. Because the last thing that you want is for someone to feel undervalued. They're gonna check out, they're gonna phone it in, or they're just gonna quit at this point, right? So the other part of it is to have a success plan, but to make it clear what your camp's values are. Time after time, you meet people who are like, I have to miss a week, family vacation, can't get out of it, and nowadays we figure that out. If someone's trying to miss 4 weeks, then you can say, you know what, we really value commitment here and we want consistency for our campers and it doesn't seem like our values line up at this time, and pass on them. Don't give yourself a headache just to hire a warm body for 4 weeks.
Perfect, thank you, Justin. Don't forget to check out his session.
It's next, I think.
I think it's next.
I think it's next.
So check your book, check the app, and we'll see you soon. Justin, thanks, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.
So Justin does not have a session after this. This was taken for a different conference that we used it for as well. But I think Justin makes a really good point. And that point is flexibility. We're no longer the luxury of being able to overhire for staff. Those days might be over. And in the past, we've been able to say, okay, you have to miss a day or two, we're not hiring you. Well, that's not what staff are looking for now. They can go down the road and get a job at Wawa or anyplace else and have flexible hours, work when they want to work, not work when they don't want to, call in, call out. And we have to understand that. And as Justin is saying, it's not a free-for-all, and we don't want to give people everything that they ask for. But if somebody comes to you and they have a reasonable request and we can figure it out and get coverage and make it work, we should do that. It's going to pay off for us in the end. So here are some key takeaways that I hope you walk away with from today's session. Be purposeful, right? Really think about why you're doing things, why rules exist, why you're not being flexible, why your staff training is the way that it is. Really think through all the messages that you're putting out there. Be intentional in the way that you build community, in the way that you talk to people, in the way you maybe schedule time off, whatever it might be. Be really intentional about everything that you're doing. Make it personal. Find out more about people. As I started with, ask lots of questions about what they like and what they're into and who they listen to in terms of music, and take notes for yourself and then bring that back up. You want them to understand that you do care about them. They're not just there because there's a bunch of campers that need to be taken care of. Again, staff are important also. We just talked about it. I think it's an excellent point that we need to be flexible, meet people where they are, understand that life is stressful, life is complicated, life is hard. And if somebody wants to be there and they're just asking for a little bit of flexibility, that's something that we should consider, because if they really want to be there, that's a luxury. And that's something that we should encourage. We have to change or we're going to be left behind. So I started with this idea of radical acceptance, and it should carry through in everything that you do. We have to leave some of our old habits and ways of thinking behind and move forward and meet people now where they are and give them the things that they need as a younger generation. Obviously, money matters when it comes to paying your staff, but it's not everything. If you can do some of the things that I talked about today, you can mitigate some of this idea of it's all about money. If you can be flexible, if you can meet them where they are, if you can provide an opportunity for them to connect with others and see the value of camp, then you can put some of those money concerns away. And while, yes, it absolutely matters, it's part of how you recruit staff, we have to understand it's not everything. And young people will tell you that. And again, we have to progress. So what does that mean? That we do as much as we can this summer. We put in as many of these suggestions or thoughts, and hopefully you have some of your own, that this brought up some ideas for you. And then we have to keep thinking about it. So it doesn't stop this summer. Every year we have to progress and move forward and come up with new ideas and change ourselves and think differently and engage with other people. Ask other people questions about what they're doing, or ask your staff what they need. But we personally, as camp directors and camp leaders, have to really decide how we're going to move forward. And it's a constant process. It's not going to end, and it shouldn't end. We have to rinse and repeat, as I like to call it. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this was helpful and that you're able to walk away with some practical ideas to work on your staff training and camp this summer to make sure that your staff stay committed. And thank you very much. And if you have any questions about the program, please feel free to email me, get in touch in any way that you'd like. And I look forward to talking to all of you soon.